ඔෆිස් එකේදී විතරක් නෙවෙයි මම දැන් ගෙදරදීත් IDD calls ගන්න SLT phone එකේ.
ඔබේ නිවසේ SLT දුරකථනය දැන් IDD පහසුකම සහිතයි.
Making headlines on First at 9. Demanding registration. Police use tear gas and water cannons to disperse university students. A new phase. The Working Committee of the United National Party approves all new office bearers unanimously. Some say expectations were not met.
So there was a fair amount of democracy embedded in that process.
Till Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe is there is going to be no reform.
Outside influences. Federation of National Organization claims the efforts on abolishing the Executive Presidency is due to Western influences.
The idea of abolition of Executive Presidency is not an idea coming from the general public of this country.
Dwindling currency. Central Bank says it will only intervene if it goes out of control.
If there is misalignment between the trend in the market and fundamentals, that the central bank will intervene.
Crucial talks. North and South Korea prepare for summit tomorrow. Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Katharina Chang. I want your top story tonight. Police fired tear gas and water cannons to disperse the protest organised by the Inter-University Bhikkhu Federation in front of the University Grants Commission. Police arrested 10 students including bhikkhus who forcibly entered the University Grants Commission.
The Inter-University Bhikkhu Federation organised a protest march to oppose the non-registering of students for two subjects, Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist studies, for the academic year 2017-2018, although students were registered for the previous year. The protesters marched towards the University Grants Commission starting from the Colombo Fort railway station, causing severe traffic disruption. As the protesters tried to forcibly enter the premises of the commission, police fired tear gas and water cannons. Police arrested 10 students, including bhikkhus, who forcibly entered the University Grants Commission.
The Working Committee of the United National Party today approved the names of the new office bearers recommended by the party's Politburo. All recommended names were approved unanimously, while some of the party members opposed the decision to appoint former Minister Ravi Karunanika as the assistant leader of the party.
The political committee appointed to recommend nominations for UNP's high-ranking positions met at Temple Trees yesterday and day before yesterday and arrived at a final decision over the new office bearers of the party. Accordingly, Minister Sajid Premadasa and former Minister Ravi Karunanika retained their previous positions as the deputy leader and the assistant leader respectively. Minister Akila Viraj Karyavasam was appointed General Secretary, while State Minister Ruwan Vijayawardena was appointed the Deputy General Secretary, with Kabir Hashim and Mangala Samaravira being appointed the chairman and the deputy chairman of the party. Minister Naveen Dissanayake was appointed national organizer, with Minister Dr. Harsha De Silva being appointed the party treasurer. The UNP Working Committee gathered at the party headquarters today under the patronage of their party leader Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe to grant approval to the new appointments recommended by the party's Politburo. Many of the names were approved unanimously, while several new appointments were made at the Working Committee. Accordingly, Minister Harin Fernando was appointed as the Communication Secretary of the party. while State Minister Ajit P. Pereira was appointed the Secretary for Trade Union Activities, with Malik Samaravikrama being appointed as Chairman of the Committee for National Elections. Expressing views to First at 9, State Minister Dr. Harsha De Silva made clear that democracy was embedded in the restructuring process.
Unlike in the previous times, this time the political committee of 12 elected members of parliament of the UNP proposed these names as opposed to the leader proposing the names as in the previous instances. So there was a fair amount of democracy embedded in that process, except for Mr. Ravi Karanayaka's name for Assistant Secretary. All others were unanimous. A few people opposed Mr. Karanayaka's name for Assistant Leader, but it was subsequently ratified.
Former Minister Joseph Michael Pereira and Deputy Minister Ranjan Ramanayaka, however, opposed MP Ravi Karanayaka being retained as the Assistant Leader of the party. Former Minister Joseph Michael Pereira came out of the discussion halfway and has decided to resign from the Working Committee. Parliamentarian Dr. Kavinda Jayawardena expressed views to First at 9 regarding the objection over the position of MP Ravi Karanayaka.
According to the party constitution, you need 2/3 of majority to oppose a position, and you have to name another candidate. So they did not nominate another candidate, and there were no opposed other than Honorable Joseph Michael Pereira and Honorable Ranjan Ramanayak. So therefore, according to the law of the party and the constitution, they carried on with the procedure. So Honorable former Minister Joseph Michael Pereira, he said that he's resigning because he can't agree upon the appointment of Ravi Karanayaka Minister.
President Maithripala issued directives to the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka to take immediate steps to the executive plan of long-term power generation for the time period of 2018 to 2037. This took place at a special discussion held at the Presidential Secretariat today.
At a special meeting held at the Presidential Secretariat, the power generation plan of long-term power generation for the time period of 2018 to 2037 was presented by the Ceylon Electricity Board for approval. The special discussion was held to discuss the issues that would arise when executing the plan.
All governmental organizations and commissions being liberal means they should comply with government principles. The commission should be supple when dealing with the issues of the people and should see how to fulfill their expectations. None of the governmental organizations should work in a way to disturb people. Humanity is about power, constitution and everything else. Whatever the law says, if people are troubled by an issue, we should take the side of the people and solve it. Therefore, we will solve issues like these.
Director General of the Petroleum Resources Development Secretariat, Vajira Dasanayaka, says that the government will issue fresh calls for international bids on oil exploration in another block of the Mana Basin. PRDS Director General said that the Cabinet of Ministers have approved the process early this month.
We have received the approval from the government, the Cabinet of Ministers, to go for the tender for the M2 block, which is based in the Mana Basin. And currently, there are already established 2 gas discoveries in that block, and we'll be going for international bids in May this year. So currently, the project committee and the cabinet-appointed negotiating committee is within the bidding documents, and by the second week of May, we are hoping to go for the bid round. The 2 established discoveries, which is Dorado and Barracuda, which contains natural gas deposits. We are hoping to develop those 2 fields and trying to generate electricity to Sri Lanka by 2023. The investment, it depends on the development plan of the candidate, but mainly minimum development plan will cost around 700 to 1.5 billion US dollars. It's very challenging due to the market downturn of the oil and gas industry, and also the fact that the M2 block, the Mana Basin, is situated in a deep water area. So the exploration and the development costs are much higher than it is for onshore or for other shallow water areas.
The Director General of the Petroleum Resources Development Secretariat, Vajira Dasanayaka, also briefed on the oil exploration efforts by Cairn India.
When Cairn took over the M2 block, they drilled 4 wells there. The first well was Dorado, which was a success, and they went into another well called Dorado North. That was a dry well, and then the third one was Barracuda, which again it was successful. There was a natural gas discovery, large reservoir, but finally there was another well that they drilled called Valago. They could not reach the final target, and due to technical fault, and they relinquished their block afterwards. After this potential, then we have to go for other areas in the Mana Basin. There are other blocks as well. We estimate that the highest hydrocarbon generation lies with the Mana Basin. Then we are hoping to develop, we have received a couple of proposals to develop the Kaveri Basin, which is shallow water.
The Federation of National Organizations say that the idea of abolishing the Executive Presidency is not coming from the general public but comes from Western imperialist separative forces. Executive member of the Federation, Attorney Raja Gunaratna, said this addressing a media briefing held in Colombo today.
Recently, all of a sudden, in a new way, this idea has now again been mooted by certain parties, with political parties, NGOs with vested interest, getting the support and the assistance from the imperialist, Western imperial forces, and also the separatist divisive forces. And that is why we say, of course, at this juncture, the abolition of the presidency is not necessary. As you all know, that if you look at the world where the executive presidencies exist right now, most of the superpower countries are having the executive presidencies. And that is the way how they have, of course, become developed and protected their national defense and all kind of stuff. And also the countries where they have the executive prime minister post, of course, again, there is other structures which basically control the powers of the prime minister. When we have a very weak parliament, and the abolition of the executive presidency will definitely pave the way for making the stability of the country, the defense and the economy and all that. So therefore we have firm view that the idea of abolition of executive presidency is not an idea coming from the general public of this country.
In the meantime, General Secretary of the United National Freedom Front, Gunaratna, states that the restructuring process of the UNP cannot be considered as a restructure, as close associates of the Prime Minister have been appointed to high-ranking positions of the party. Various views were also expressed in the political arena over the UNP reforms.
Till Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe is there is going to be no reform. The only reform people are asking is for him to go. Today what has happened is Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe is there. He has appointed all his group of friends to various positions. I wish to call upon any member of the UNP come out and say that they are satisfied with these reforms. Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe appoints the working committee, and the working committee appoints Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe. So therefore, until this working committee is there is going to be no reform.
When looking at the new office bearers, it seems like a royal team has been appointed. It is not a UNP for the village, but a royal UNP. They did this to give a new face to the UNP. So the people who requested for a new face can now celebrate it by lighting firecrackers. Some positions have been changed here and there, but the leadership remains the same.
Head of the department,
We object to the appointments of the new office bearers. No party member or politician requested a change in the position of the General Secretary or Chairman, but the request was for a change in the leadership of the party. Our organization recommends and requests Sajith Premadasa to become the leader of our party.
The Government Information Department said that April 29th and 30th were declared as the Vesak days for this year, while the Vesak week was declared from today to May 2nd. The Information Department informed that all liquor shops, slaughterhouses, casino centres, betting centres and clubs should be closed on April 29th and 30th, and also informed supermarkets to stop selling liquor and meat. On Vesak Day, Buddhists all over the world commemorate events of significance to Buddhists of all traditions, the birth, enlightenment and the passing away of Lord Buddha. Meanwhile, media spokesperson of the Deputy Excise Commission, Kapila Kumarasinghe told other Derana that the Excise Department will deploy over 1,000 officials to detect excise-related crimes and malpractices using excise licenses. The Deputy Commissioner also added that they have introduced a special number which the public can inform such activities to the department.
Due to the Vesak festival, which is fallen officially in April this year, Sri Lanka Excise Department has planned to organize a special supervisory program covering all the parts of the island. Under this program, the department is expecting to deploy its 1,200 excise personnel to cover the entire Vesak week and to detect all the excise crimes and all possible occurrences of malpractices by excise licensees across the island. Under this program, a special desk has been organized at the excise head office, which is operational round-the-clock basis, and a special telephone number is already allocated for the general public to give their information with regard to the excise crimes committed in their area and also the malpractices by the licensees in their areas. This telephone number is 0112 045 077.
Director General of the National Intellectual Property Office, Geethanjali Ranawaka, states that programs to strengthen intellectual property laws in order to protect the rights of the copyright holders are expected to be brought in the near future. The Director General made this remark at a function held to celebrate the World Intellectual Property Day in Colombo today.
The World Intellectual Property Day 2018 was celebrated in Colombo today under the theme Empowering Women in Creativity, mixed with a high-level sub-regional workshop.
We are mandated to promote the respect for and protection of intellectual property, including copyright in the world. Also, we have been working with our member states, your countries, to promote the development of copyright system in order to maximum the role of the system for the encouragement and protection of national creativity, national creative industries, at the same time taking care of the needs and interests of all concerned. WIPO has been working closely with your countries to develop or to update your national legal and policy framework in the field of copyright, to promote better understanding of the usefulness of the international copyright frameworks, and to work with your governments and your stakeholders to establish or to strengthen the infrastructure for the protection and the management of copyright and related rights.
We are planning out special programs to strengthen our IP laws in order to protect the rights of copyright holders, especially in the music industry. And in fact, with the guidance of His Excellency the President, we have been able to go ahead with a special regulation to strengthen collective management societies and to protect the rights of members of music industry, so that they will be able to get the royalties paid when their work is used by a third party, be it a media organization or a company or any user who will have to pay royalty to the right holders.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, welcomed the depreciating of the Sri Lankan rupee, which recorded a closing low of 157.95 cents against the dollar today, weakening further from its previous record low of 157 rupees and 75 cents hit yesterday. He added that should the rupee depreciate further, it is only then will the central bank intervene to control inflation. Meanwhile, the central bank said that the real GDP growth for 2017 was 3.1%, which was below the projections of the government, which was about 5.75%. He made this remark at a special media briefing on the 2017 annual report of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka in Colombo today.
The 68th annual report of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka was presented to Minister of Finance and Mass Media Mangala Samaraweera by the Governor of CBSL, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, at the Ministry of Finance today. According to the report, the real GDP growth for 2017 decreased to 3.1%, which was below the projections of the government, which was about 5.75%. In 2016, Sri Lanka recorded a growth of 4.5%. In the external sector, however, although earnings from exports increased to the highest levels recorded, the increase in imports, mainly arising from drought-related imports of petroleum and rice, as well as increased importation of gold, caused a wider trade deficit of 11% of GDP. Meanwhile, the overall budget deficit saw an expansion of 5.5% of GDP due to the impact on revenue collection, government spending as well as rising interest payments. The report also added that the central government debt decreased from 78.8% in 2016 to 77.6% of GDP last year. Meanwhile, the Sri Lankan rupee depreciated against the US dollar by 2% during the year, while the real effective exchange rate indices also depreciated, raising the competitiveness of the currency. According to the central bank, the depreciation of the currency is expected to enable a gradual adjustment of the current account deficit of the balance of payments in the period ahead. The overall balance of the balance of payments recorded a surplus of $2.1 billion last year after 2 years of deficits as a result of significant inflows to the financial account. Speaking at the media briefing today, Central Bank Governor Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy was queried on the impact of the depreciating rupee on the country's debt repayment.
I think it's a myth really to say that when you depreciate the rupee, external debt liabilities become aggravated. Because you borrow in foreign exchange and you have to pay back in US dollars. When the borrowing is incurred, for accounting purposes, it is recorded in rupees. And when you depreciate the currency, that amount does increase. If there is misalignment between the trend in the market and fundamentals, that the central bank will intervene. Though we don't want to intervene, we want the market to develop, we will intervene. And we feel there is absolutely no reason why there should be volatility in the exchange rate, because our current reserves are at 10 billion. In addition, a further 600 million will come in the next 2-3 months as the last tranche payment on the Hambantota long lease. So with all this flood of money coming into the country, there is absolutely no reason for the rupee to be under pressure. Because we are a heavily indebted country in terms of our foreign debt, because we need to boost our exports to get out of that foreign debt problem, it is important to have a competitive currency. And as a rule of thumb, we would like the real effective exchange rate index to be 100. At the moment, it is just slightly under 100. So the currency is slightly actually undervalued.
We would like to give the market more flexibility and more authority for them to manage the exchange rate rather than central bank going into market and into that. That's why we have tolerated a little more volatility so far. But I think certain level of currency valuation in real terms is good for the overall economy.
The governor also commented on the growth of the economy.
Because growth is relatively low now, not to follow the past practice of loosening policy too much. Now clearly the fact that growth is so low is something that the Monetary Board needs to take into account, particularly because we have a large output gap. One has to be very careful not to create excess demand in the system, which is a mistake we have made again and again. And we should avoid that through reforms and drive good quality growth rather than creating artificially high growth, which is not sustainable.
Oil prices rose today, supported by expectations the United States will reimpose sanctions against Iran, a decline in output in Venezuela, and ongoing strong demand. Brent crude oil futures LCOC1 were at $74.27 per barrel, up 27 cents or 0.4% from their last close. US West Texas Intermediate crude futures were up 14 cents or 0.2% at $68.19 per barrel. The oil share price index ended 0.18% weaker at 6,521.74 today, and the turnover stood at 390.2 million rupees, around a third of this year's daily average of 1.1 billion rupees. Now let's take a look at how the Sri Lanka rupee traded against other currencies around the world.
Watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
Divided by a war almost 7 decades ago that ended in a truce, the two Koreas on each side of the 38th parallel are beefing up preparations for an ice-breaking summit scheduled for tomorrow. With North Korea announcing the suspension of its nuclear and missile test and South Korea proposing to ink a peace agreement that formally ends the stalemate following the 1950 to 1953 Korean War, the world has welcomed these reconciliatory gestures leading up to the summit, for which expectations are high.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in will greet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un tomorrow as the latter crosses a military demarcation line to enter the South for the first summit between the two sides in more than a decade. Kim will be accompanied by 9 officials, including military officers and his sister Kim Yo-jong and Kim Yong-nam, the North's nominal head of state. The historic talks will focus on North's recent indications it could be willing to give up its nuclear weapons. The landmark summit is a breakthrough after years of mounting tension. But Seoul has warned reaching an agreement aimed at ridding Pyongyang of its nuclear weapons will be difficult because North Korea's nuclear and missile technology has advanced so much since the sides last held talks. The meeting, the third of its kind, following summits in 2000 and 2007, is the result of months of improving relations between the two Koreas and paves the way to a possible meeting between Kim and US President Donald Trump. As well as addressing Pyongyang's nuclear ambitions, the leaders are expected to discuss a path to peace on the peninsula to formally end the 1950 to 53 Korean War, and will also discuss a series of economic and social issues.
French President Emmanuel Macron said yesterday that he would expect US President Donald Trump to pull the United States out of the Iran nuclear deal based on his past statements, while stressing he does not know what Trump will decide on the 12th of May. He went on to say that he had come to the conclusion based not on inside information, but on what his American counterpart said publicly during their visit.
French President Emmanuel Macron has said he may have failed in efforts to persuade Donald Trump to retain an international nuclear deal with Iran. Trump has until the 12th of May to decide on the deal, which aimed to prevent Iran acquiring nuclear weapons. He has been a strong critic of the deal, calling it insane. Under the agreement reached under Trump's predecessor Barack Obama, Iran agreed to mothball its nuclear program in return for an easing of economic sanctions. The US president has long complained that the accord, signed by the US, Iran, Europe, Russia, China and Germany, does nothing to halt Iran's support for militant groups in the region, such as the Lebanese Shia Muslim group Hezbollah. Trump is also demanding that signatories to the pact agree permanent restrictions on uranium enrichment, a key part of any nuclear program. Under the current deal, these restrictions are set to expire in 2025.
Felicitation ceremonies were organized today for medalists and other old pupils who participated at the 21st Commonwealth Games in Gold Coast, Australia. Accordingly, silver medalist Indika Dissanayake and bronze medalist Tiwankarana and Dinusha Gomez were felicitated at their respective schools.
A felicitation ceremony was organized today at Vidyartha College in Kandy for Tiwankarana, who won the bronze medal in the men's boxing 46 to 49 kg weight category, and other old boys who participated at the 21st Commonwealth Games. Accordingly, a felicitation ceremony was also organized at Kingswood College for Indika Dissanayake, who won silver at the men's 69 kg weightlifting category. A felicitation ceremony was also organized at St. Mary's College, Wadua, for Dinusha Gomez, who won the bronze medal in the women's 48 kg weightlifting category at the 21st Commonwealth Games held in Gold Coast, Australia.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Derana 24/7.
Shenla Fernando is at the Weather Centre with your forecast first evening edition.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Your temperatures for tomorrow are to vary between 21 and 33 degrees Celsius, with the lowest and highest expected in Kandy and Jaffna respectively. When looking at the map, a low pressure zone will form from the southern part of the island and will gradually spread throughout the country. Well, there will be no much sun in the island, as many areas including Jaffna, Mana, Vaunia, Anuradhapura, Kandy, Colombo, Galle and Mathura as well as Hambantota will experience showers and thundershowers. That's all we have from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your city by city forecast.
And with that, we conclude this edition of First at 9. We will return tomorrow at the same time. Make sure to join us then. And tonight, we end our bulletin with a tribute to Swedish singer Avicii, also known as Tim Bergling, who died last week in Oman. Recently, a Swedish choir sang his hit song Wake Me Up as an ode to his life. Thank you for joining us and good night.